Own Way, the podcast with me, your host, Kori McClurg. So, today I want to talk about a way to begin to think about something differently that you've recognized maybe is in your way, or at the minimum, it's, unpleasant. So, this is a technique that I did not invent it. I learned about it from Annie Grace, and and it has a little acronym, so it makes it easier to remember it, and to just kind of keep it front of mind. But it's super helpful. It's called the ACT technique, ACT technique, and those words there, that acronym stands for awareness, clarity, transformation. Sometimes people say turnaround. However you want to think about it, I want to walk through it, so hopefully it's helpful for you. So, the first letter, of course, awareness. You got to have some level of awareness of kind of, what's going on, and I find that sometimes that's the hardest part, right? Like sometimes something's bothering you and you're not quite sure what about it is bothering you. I can't tell you how many times, throughout a normal week, you have this stuff just kind of churning in your brain, right? Especially if you're really busy and you're just trying to get through the day. But I'd say it's a positive sign if you're at least aware that that stuff is churning, right? That there's something going on. And then, of course, the critical thing is to okay, let me stop for a second and really kind of try to figure out what that is. What is it that's rubbing me the wrong way? Or, what is it that my brain's working on? And really try to, just understand it, right? No judgment, just understanding the situation. You want to kind of whittle it down. Like, okay, yeah, there's like this kind of nebulous of stuff. And frankly, there might be a couple of different thoughts that you're having about one situation. Totally fine. I can't tell you, a lot of times when things are upsetting, there's a lot of things that are upsetting about it. It's not just like, oh, this one thing is bothering me. It's like, no, there's about half a dozen things that are really upsetting me about this situation. And that's fine. You can kind of work through each one separately, right? Like you identify, okay, here's issue number one. I'm going to work through it. The second one, third one, and however much it takes, right, to kind of work through it. So, but that first step, awareness, is the key of this whole process. All right, we know something's going on, and now we gotta put it in something succinct, right? We got to put it in some kind of statement so we can kind of work on that. Once we've kind of whittled it down, we know, we have a pretty good handle on what it is, what's bothering us. Then we can move on to clarity. Now, clarity is kind of like you want to understand the full body of this thing that you're trying to work through. So you want to get clear around, how is it making you feel? How is it making you behave? Fleshing it out, right? Really getting clear on what the thing is and everything about it. That might take a bit, right? Because we often, at least me, I find that I know this thing is kind of like a thorn in my side, but I gotta sit down and really, sometimes I gotta write it out. I cannot tell you how many times I have, even before I have a session with a therapist or a coach, I will sit and kind of do a brain dump around this thing that I want to talk to them about, because I know that I'm not clear on it. I gotta when I go to them, I want it to be productive. So I really want to get a lot of clarity around every aspect of this thing that's bothering me so that, I can like really get into it with them. So yeah, that might be a journaling session. If it's something kind of, big and gnarly, messy, like it's maybe it even took a lot just to like get it whittled down to a sentence or two. And now you're trying to get all this clarity around it. Yeah. So just, it's fine to take some time with it, right? Really get clear around what's going on. And you might discover some things, right? Like if we're really getting honest with ourselves, I think in this clarity phase is a time when you can ask yourself these questions about where, not only is it like, how is it making you feel? How does it make you behave? Even some things like, where did it come from? I've kind of, whenever I started some of my wellness work, I realized that, some of the stuff that bothers me, it didn't even come from me, right? It came from some other influential adult in my childhood, and I just carried it with me. So I'm sitting here letting their thoughts bother me, as a middle-aged woman. And it wasn't anything that I came up with. I got it from them. So yeah, just getting that real clarity around it is so helpful. Once you feel, you feel good about, you understand what's going on, you understand how it's making you feel, then you want to start working, like to try to turn that around, to transform that thought. This part can be tricky because I'm going to tell you, you can't just like turn something around 180 degrees and expect it to stick, right? That is kind of akin to like this, just be happy kind of toxic positivity kind of stuff. You're not going to believe if you have this, thing in your brain, like I'm just a fat cow, right? Like if you're telling yourself something horrible, and then you're not just going to like transform that into 180 degrees around and say, oh no, I'm beautiful and skinny. That's not going to work. But you still, there are other things that are not the original thought that you would believe that do seem true to you. It's a little bit of a brainstorming, I guess, but one thing I like to try with this is, especially if I'm just feeling really low about something, I like to use, it's almost another little technique. It's called ladder thinking. And the idea is like, if I'm at the bottom of the ladder, right, I'm really feeling crappy, low. This is kind of the worst thought there is. Well, what's like one rung up from that? Like I'm not going to get all the way up to the top of the ladder in one fell swoop, right? I'm beautiful skinny thing. But I might get like one rung up, right? I might be like, no, I'm not fat and ugly. Like I'm, I just, I want to work on myself, and I do really like, something about myself. Like you'll want to find whatever feels true to you. Don't ever try to make yourself believe something that you don't believe, or that just seems like such a stretch. Especially it has something to do with your behavior. A lot of times we'll we're so absolutist about ourselves. Like I've heard people say like, oh, I'm so worried, I never follow through with anything. And well, that's totally not true, right? They've obviously followed through with something in their life, or they wouldn't be standing there in front of you. So if you, so like in that case, you look for this evidence of other times where you did follow through with something, right? Like, I'd guess that, most of you have like graduated from something, right? High school or whatever, or saw something through to completion. So you have this evidence that says that you don't just, never follow through. There are things that you follow through in your life. So, and, it's all about just these little, rungs of the ladder. And it's fine if they're small rungs, right? You don't need to like do this one fell swoop and, drastically, you're going to feel better. The whole idea is finding these other things that are also true. The worst thing that you're thinking is not true. I promise you, right? We can always find evidence that that worst thing is not absolutely true. So we want to go in that direction, or something tangential to that original thought, just something that we also believe to be true, but isn't this like lowest, thought that we had. And then, once you've kind of worked on that turnaround, then just check back in with yourself. How does that turnaround make you feel? Ideally, it's making you feel more empowered. It's making you feel like you want to take another step, that, it quells some of that angst that you were feeling, and just, get you moving back in the right direction. So yeah, I think that overall, just going through that whole exercise, and it's a great little mnemonic, to remember when you're like, I am so wrapped up in my head about, this situation. What can I do about it? Well, here's a very boom, boom, boom thing that you can do. Either just totally a mental exercise, or write some of that stuff down, and you're back into a better position, and just not so wound up about what that original thing was that was bothering you. So yeah, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to help you move on from what was not a helpful thought, and you just keep working it, for if that thought keeps coming back up, then you keep reworking that one, or for anything, on just a random day when something's just really bothering you. So anyway, yeah, remember the ACT technique, ACT, and actually I'll put a link to Annie describing it herself, since she was the developer of that. But I just found it so helpful that I thought we'd talk about it here. So hope you enjoy.